Namaste. Welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga. And we're going to continue with answering questions from the jar. I'm going to pull out a question. Oh, I'm just going to get my timer working here again. Let me see what we got here. And we'll answer the question hopefully within a 10-minute time frame. It will not be perfect. Nothing about me is perfect. You see, what you see is what you get, and the same goes with my video. So I'm going to answer this question. It's a very general question, but it's going to be a tricky one. How do you solve your problems? Fairly personal as well, I guess. I'm going to set the timer and take a deep breath. How do you solve your problems? Well, that's a biggie. I guess first of all, we're going to have to look at the word problems and define that. What I call a problem, you may not call a problem, or what vice versa. I honestly believe now, through my practice and through everything I've researched and learned, that there are very few problems in the world. Problems are just basically challenges that we are resisting. They're life events that we find too challenging to handle, so we tell ourselves we're going to judge them as bad, wrong, shouldn't be, and we attempt to push them away through resistance of one form or another. And the form of resistance most of us use, according to Freudian psychologists and whatnot, is repression and suppression. And when we repress and suppress, we think we're pushing away. But all we're doing is pushing down below our conscious awareness so that we don't have to think about it consciously and handle it consciously because we think it's too big for us. It's too painful. And so we resist and push down. So a problem then, to me, is the resistance. But to most people, the problem would be that thing in life that showed up and we felt like, oh my God, I can't handle it. I lost my job, or the boss yelled at me, or the kids are, not maintaining their curfew, or God knows they're doing drugs. Hey, been there. Or the dog is sick and I can't afford the vet bill, or I'm losing my house because I can't pay the mortgage. Been there too. So there are so many challenges in life that we deem as problems because we feel they are too pain-inducing or potentially too pain-inducing. So our reaction to them is to push them away. And when we push away, once again, we're not pushing away, we're just pushing down and in. So we're stuffing and storing the energy of a life event. Of course, I'm not actually pushing the event away. I'm not pushing, whatever experience I'm experiencing away. I'm just pushing the energy away, the painful emotional energy. And we have to realize, people, that everything is energy. Emotions are energy. Our thoughts are energy. We are energy bodies. My goodness, you put an ECG on you or an EEG on you, you see how much energy or everything is electromagnetic in our bodies. So we're all energy. And energy is meant to flow in and flow out. If you were to get hit by a lightning bolt, or let's not say a lightning bolt, a sap of electricity, you would have an entrance point. And the first thing a responder would look for, if they knew what they were doing, would be the exit, because we want to make sure that energy has left your body before we touch you, right? But energy, it's just meant to flow through. So if that electrical current went right through you, there would be no harm to the other individual who was responding to your crisis, and you have more of a chance of surviving. But if the energy stays in your body, it can do a lot of damage. So when we talk about that energy of those painful experiences that we push away, if we leave them in our body for a period of time, they're going to do damage. They're going to cause what the yogis call samskaras, knots and tangles in our psyche, preventing the beautiful flow of Shakti from flowing. And if you may not ascribe to any of that, that's great. What they're going to do is they're going to block your energy flow, so you're going to feel down and negative. Your life is going to be constantly triggered and be a reaction to external events that may trigger these things inside you that are painful. So you've got this coming at you and this coming at you, and boom, you're just hit with all this negative energy. And they also store in our bodies, right? Most illness, I believe, is psychosomatic, and I've often talked about that too. And I'm not putting down people who are sick and saying, "Oh, you're not the cause of your sickness," nothing like that. But we unknowingly make ourselves sick a lot of time by storing and holding on to this negative energy that we did not want to process through. Just as the person who absorbed the electrical current, if they don't have an exit route for that energy to flow through, is containing that energy, and that energy is doing great damage. So that energy that is not allowed to flow through us in the form of emotional pain is going to create damage to us. It's going to create knots in our bodies and disease and cellular changes and whatnot. It has to. Energy just does that, right? If it doesn't, given the ability to flow through. So all that being said, this person asked was, how do I solve my problems? Well, first of all, I make the distinction between problem and challenge. And it took me a long while to do that. I was a very reactive person for most of my life. So I would have someone say something to me at work. Oh my God, and then I would think about it obsessively for weeks. And then I would think about, I'm going to plan to get back at that person, at least make them feel real guilty for what they were doing, or, prove myself and all that. And that's how I dealt with my problems, those type of problems. And then I always went to other people and say, fix me. I was so dependent when my body started to do its funny things on the healthcare system to diagnose me, validate my condition, give me what I needed, whatever, get the support I needed because I was unable to work and all that. And that all fell through the wayside. That was a terrible mess. And I learned not to depend and to depend more on me. So in relationships too, I used to depend on other people to help me fix my relationship. As soon as I had a problem or something that was painful to deal with, I'd run to somebody else and I'd yap about my problem and say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I wanted them to validate that it indeed was a problem. And if someone were to say to me, when involved, the odd time I went to someone who was fairly involved, and they say, that's really not a problem, that's a challenge. And I think if you look more inside yourself and fixed what was going on within you, then you could solve your problems. I would look at them and say, oh my God, I can't believe you don't understand me. Can't you see what I'm going through? And I would run out of the room. I was like that for most of my life. But now I see what those individuals were actually saying to me, and I actually see the difference and distinction between a problem and a challenge. There are very, very few problems in life, but life is going to be challenging. It's not here to serve us. It's not here to make it. It's not supposed to be easy for us. With every challenge, we have an opportunity to learn and grow and expand. And maybe it's a random thing. It works out the way it does, but we need to be able to embrace every opportunity to, expand and grow and learn. And so I look at my so-called problems in that way now as opportunities for learning. And I always make sure that I take that pause between the stimulus and the response. And I don't know if you've ever studied operant or classical conditioning, Pavlov or Skinner or any of those boys. But usually what they're saying is proving is that between the time you're hit with the stimulus and the time you respond, there is a pause. And if we can inhabit that pause by being, as calm and as peaceful and as still and silent, thinking it through before we jump into a response, which would mean a reaction, we are going to have less problems in the long run. And so if we can solve every little so-called problem in that way by inhabiting the pause and looking at it deeply and thinking about what we can do to make our lives better in that moment, rather or think about the next what we say and how we respond could impact the situation and make it worse, then that too can help us deal with problems. So I tend to do that too. I'm very aware of that pause between the stimulus and the response, and I do my best to respond instead of react. One of the other ways I've learned to handle problems is not to let the emotions to get over with, to take control of the reins of my life, and they will very quickly. Thoughts and emotions like to be in control, and sometimes when we're faced with a situation that is challenging, we get emotional, but we have to be mindful that that emotion too is just an energy that's meant to flow through like the electrical current is. we'll have all these thoughts, and these thoughts are so convincing, trying to pull us into story, and oh, you got to fix it by doing this, this, and this, and if you don't fix this, this will happen, and whatever. But again, that's just story. That is, again, a collection of energy, and we need to be mindful that we do not have to believe the story, nor do we have to follow the energy of emotion where it takes us. We can recognize it, accept it, allow it, and then just allow it to flow through like it's supposed to. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And though the challenging situations may come at us one at a time sometimes, and it feels like we're drowning in them, they too will pass. Everything in life will come in and it will go out at one point. It will not stay like this. You'll have just as many blessing moments, what we call blessing moments, as we will challenging moments. And we just need to be mindful of them. So it's important that we understand that, and that we are willing to look at our problems as challenges, that we are willing to take that pause between the stimulus and the response, so we're not reacting, and that we are learning, expanding, and growing from every so-called, I call them challenges, problems we may encounter. That's how I handle mine now. I try to practice more so that I'm more, proactive in handling the challenging times in life. And I try to definitely look at it as a challenge and an opportunity for learning and growing when I face stuff. I inhabit the pause as much as I can, stillness and silence and all that in that minute between the time the thing shows up in my life and the time I react and respond. And I have learned to appreciate the so-called problems in life for helping me to grow. It isn't easy. Oh my gosh, no, I have all kinds of emotions. I'm just frustrated and stressed out a lot, especially lately. And this going on with the health, this going on with the finances, this going on with the kids, this is going on with that and that. And yeah, life can be tough and it can be challenging sometimes. But there's still that moment of grace, right, between the stimulus and the response, and there's still that blessing coming in and out of our lives just as much as the so-called challenges are. So I think life is amazing, and I'm amazed by it, and I'm in awe of it. So that helps me to deal with so-called problems in a much better way too, just to realize how cool it all is, even if there is problems. Anyway, I went over my time. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm not going to say problem-free, but I'm going to say reaction-free. Namaste.